Yo, what up? Sasha here. This is the Vacuous YouTube channel. All things related to death metal. I do a lot of cover videos, and I'm going to get into instructional videos on down picking. And this is a great video if you're going to play shows, you're going to play death metal, especially, and just non-guitar related warm-ups, so that you can avoid injuries and actually be able to put on a better show. Because I don't know if you've seen me perform, I fucking try to throw down and do the whole old school Cannibal Corpse, suffocation, headbang, every moment you can, just to put on the show that I would want to see. So let's get into some active stretches so that you can be loose and you can avoid pulling your back out if you're headbanging, throwing down, or hurting your neck, your traps, all these various muscles that you need in order to play such a physically demanding genre that is death metal. So any show I play, whether it's just a one-off festival or touring, this is shit that I do every show beforehand, amongst also hydrating and watching what I eat and all that jazz. So let's get into it. The very first thing I do, say you played a show yesterday or you worked out, your shoulders are going to be tight, most likely, so you have some lactic acid and you just want to get pain-free mobility in the shoulder joint, and then you can work down from there. So what I do first is just swing my arms. And I know that sounds really hilarious, but it's what it is. And I worked out yesterday, so my delts, all three heads, medial, front, rear, super tight. So I just simply swing my arms around, and it's even a Tai Chi thing where you put your arms in front of you and then you touch them at the back and you just rotate which arm is over top of the other. Do that a bunch of times. If there's any pain in the arm, obviously don't do it, but just ease into it, and you're just slowly getting some heat and fluid into the shoulder joint. Okay, so that's number one. Number two is just a kind of a similar thing, but you're changing the axis point. So instead of being lateral, I do these things I call them chicken wings, where you just tuck your elbows in, and motherfucking chicken wings. That's what it's up. You know what I'm saying? So this one's great. I do this a lot in the gym. If I'm lifting weights, it's a bit different than guitar, but I do this. This is like almost the first thing I do, because you want to get just mobility. That's everything. So yeah, let's recap. You got the arm swings, you got the chicken wings. Now this is the most important stretch. And keep in mind, all these stretches are active, there's active, not static. Active means movement. Static means like holding a stretch. I don't believe in holding stretches. So with all that aside, number three are called wall angels. And the reason why they're called wall angels is usually you go against the wall, put your back to the wall, and it allows you to drop your arms parallel to your body so that you're getting not only movement within the shoulder, but you're actually instilling proper function of the shoulder joint. Because when you have injuries or chronic buildup of scar tissue, fascia tissue, is that you're more likely to compensate posture. So wall angels are perfect because they simply reintroduce or establish proper posture. So pretend I'm against a wall here. Okay, so your back's against the wall, and I'm gonna face you so you can see what I'm doing, but pretend there's a wall behind me, right? So your legs shoulder width apart. You want to make sure that your shoulders are relaxed, and you have to have that little bit of intense with your posture. And what that means is a lot of times when you overwork your shoulders, they're more likely to cave in, and that's where people get a lot of chronic injuries. To have proper posture, you have to engage your scapula, which is below your traps. So your shoulder blade itself, right on the inside between your shoulder blade and your spine, is your scapula. So by simply retracting and puffing your chest out a little bit, that is engaging and opening up the shoulder so that you can actually, you're more likely to use your shoulder the way the physiology was designed to work, okay? So all that stuff aside, wall angels, you have legs shoulder width apart. You pretty much raise your hands shoulder width apart. You face your palms in, and with drawing your elbows down and keeping your outside of your arms against the wall the whole time, you're slowly drawing your arm in parallel to your body, okay? So with that proper posture and opening up the shoulder and properly dropping them with your shoulders being relaxed, you are pretty much reintroducing and teaching the shoulder joint to work properly. So the more you work out, the more you throw down body slams, death metal, the more you're going to be tight. So once you have the arm swings and the chicken wings and the shoulder joints warmed up a bit, by doing these wall angels, however many you seem fit, just do anywhere between 8 to 12, and a lot of times they can hurt, and that means that you probably need to do this in order to reintroduce the proper posture and use of these shoulders. You're thinking like, well, wait, this is more of a rehabilitative exercise. It is, but I use it as a warm-up, because as you open up your shoulders and you try to not have that muscle compensation, by reintroducing proper function of the shoulder, from that point down, you're more likely to be loose and to be able to avoid chronic injuries, whether it's on your arms, because when your shoulder's all gunked up, and a lot of times if you do this, you're going to have clicks and certain movements or small pain. If you're able to release that, you're less likely to have that radiate down your arm and thus lead to some bad injuries. So recap, we got the arm swings, got the chicken wings, and we got the wall angels, okay? The fourth one, I don't know the name of, but it's simply putting your arm behind your back, and you know how a lot of people will do both sides? I simply just do the lower, and this isn't active, this is more static. So because it's static, I only hold it for a few seconds, all right? Because if you hold it for like 10 seconds, a lot of times it may feel really good, but you're kind of straining the muscles, and that can be a negative consequence. So for this is also something to help stretch the outside of the arm, and also to coincide with the previous wall angels of just posture, retracting the shoulders a little bit. So that's a good one. And then from there, with the hands and wrists, I usually will do like the prayer shit, but I don't hold it for too long, because if you hold this for like 20 seconds, it may feel good, but you might have a lot of tension where you're only doing this just to kind of release a little bit. You can do this one, but I usually don't hold it for too long, because, you know, and I do the goddamn Vanderlei Silva bullshit. And then a Tai Chi one afterwards is kind of the wax on, wax off, shoulder width apart, and just kind of shake your hands, being loose and just allowing the wrist to kind of warm up. And if there's any kinks, you might, you know, work through it a bit and then shake out your arms. And that's pretty much it. That's kind of the basis of what I will do going into a show. Last thing I'll do is lower body stuff, because my hips are fucked up from hockey. I'm really quad dominant, so a lot of times I'll do certain things to try to stretch the hips, and you know, because if I'm headbanging, I'll try to get super low, and if your hips are super tight If you headbang, that might be more likely to lead to a lower back injury. So I'm going to try to lower the camera here and kind of break down what I do. So I do kind of the martial art, you know, your shoulder width apart, take one step per side, maybe a step and a quarter, and literally lean over. You don't want to round your back too much, but it's inevitable. And you just kind of find that sweet spot where you feel from your heel all the way to the top of your glute. You feel just a straight line of a stretch. And this is more of a static stretch, but I find hamstrings get so tight constantly, especially from just sitting in a car or driving. That shit is horrible for my hips, and because my hips are so tight, I can't just, you know, do a couple active stretches and then they're all good to go. I usually have to hold it a little bit longer and just kind of hang there anywhere from 20 to 40 seconds. You can even like lean over to side, kind of like that. And then from there, what I'll do is a great hip stretch where you simply put shoulder width apart with your feet, and then literally just take half a step back with the side you want to stretch, and then by bending the opposing knee a little bit, you just slowly move forward, and you'll just find in the hip flexor, abductor, even through the front of the leg, the groin, just this really nasty stretch. And sometimes I'll even shift away from there to get it into the obliques and whatever, and sometimes up the back. But I just kind of, I don't hold this one for too long because, you know, like I said, with active stretches, it can be, static stretches, it can be a bit too much, and you can actually put a lot of, you can overstrain the muscles. So that one's absolutely brutal. And then another one for the hips is you pretty much cross your legs, one leg, and you just kind of lean forward. A lot of times you want to like grab something like a tree or another metal dude and just grab his fucking big arms, just be like, oh yeah, fucking stretch that hip, man. You feel it all up in your ass, you know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? And then you just do the other side. And I usually don't hold it for too long. You just want to kind of get that shit moving, you know what I'm saying? And then last one is kind of what gymnasts, hockey players, all types of other people do, is you get a wall and you literally just swing your leg, you know, do that back and forth really loose. I can only do this because I have really good balance from hockey. But yeah, anytime I'm going to do cardio or anything, I do that a lot because it's a great active release. And actually, I wasn't really doing these on tour because they look really funny and you're like, you know, self-conscious. Everyone's partying, doing drugs and shit backstage, and you're like, oh, you're like doing all these like stretches, and they're like, what the fuck's with that guy? But you know what, man? Doesn't matter because you put on that show and you're like, oh, everyone's like, that's why he's fucking training like he's gonna like climb a mountain. Because when you're throwing down, man, you gotta be fucking ready. It's like a sport, you know, you gotta warm up. And then when you play the show, after the show, if you want to do those static stretches, or you just hold them for a long time, you know, you can hold this one for a long time. It feels great. And you know, come to think of it, the hip one I told you, where you're leaning over for long periods of time, you probably shouldn't do that unless you're like me and your hips are just really gunked up and you gotta fucking, it takes a lot more to stretch them out. But yeah, that's pretty much it. A recap, you got the friggin' arm swings, chicken wings into the wall angels, into whatever namaste bullshit this is, I think. Into the prayers, Vanderlei Silva stuff. You know, these are active stretches, but don't hold them for too long. Into the Tai Chi wrist swing bullshit. And then a lot of people, you're not going to want to lean over and do the hip stuff. You probably want to do the leg swings. And be sure that when you're swinging your legs, don't just pull your groin out or just throw your legs around right away. You want to make sure that you can do some rotations like this. And that's something I forgot to say. If you're doing shit like this, it looks really funny, but you're opening up everything in the pelvis. And then if your glutes are super tight, this stuff's compensating. Just like if you have underdeveloped abs, you're working your back more. So as much as your glutes need to open up, you need to release the front and do rotations like this that are kind of like the fucking chicken wings. And then from there, when you're warmed up in the joint, then you're less likely to pull something in the hip. And feel free to like, subscribe and shit, and please leave comments if you get weird interactions backstage, because people see you doing some shit and they're busy doing blow and drinking and thinking you're fucked up for trying to look out for your health. But like I said, the more loose you are and you're more fluid in the joints, the better you can avoid injuries, the better you can play every night, and the better show you're going to put on. So for me, death metal is all about the live show. That is the most important thing for me, is when you put on a show and people are like, holy fuck. And, you know, I've been influenced by a lot of amazing stage performers. Your Diego Sanchez, Ed Tolerado of Disgorge, formerly defeated Sanity Christian, Cerrito, Hobbs, all those guys. You know, in order to do this stuff, for me, you know, with my athletic background, I have to do these warm-ups. Maybe those guys didn't have to do any of this stuff, but for me, I do, and I find that it makes all the difference in the world, on top of sleeping if you can, hydration, you know, getting some nutrition on the road, which is super hard to do, but you get what you put in. So if you're able to hydrate before you go to bed and when you wake up, or before a show, and then you get warmed up properly and do some non-guitar related warm-ups, you're more likely gonna be able to fucking throw down, you know what I'm saying? So when you got the guitar, you can get really low, you know what I'm saying? And then put on the best show you can. So I hope this is helpful. Be sure to, like I said, like, subscribe and shit, you know what I'm saying? And feel free to ask questions in the comments. I'll do my best to help you guys. And hope this helps. Anyways, all the best. And stay fucking metal, right? You know what I'm saying?